let me see. I usually try and bring something along for you to see, boys and girls, but today I didn't have much, so I just grabbed some things from the kitchen. I'm sorry about this, this is a bag of rubbish, and some more rubbish in here, just things that we throw away. I wonder if you can tell me what these things are. Aluminium. And we don't throw our aluminium away in our house. Lily only won't let us. So we keep it, and when we've got a ball, we bundle it up into a ball, and then you can recycle it. Don't just throw one thing in the thing, because that's no good. But if you make a little collection and put it in a ball, it can be recycled. Why waste aluminium? Right, that's very good. So we save our aluminium. And this is my little bag of things. Can you see what's in there, boys and girls? Batteries. And we don't throw them in the bin, do we? No. Because that would be bad. But we save them, and then we take them to Officeworks or Battery World, and they will recycle our batteries. So we don't have to throw that rubbish in the rubbish bin. So that's a good thing. And can you see what I've got here, boys and girls? Not teeth. Good guess. Thank you for trying. You need to go to the eye doctor this week. They're bread clips. And did you know, boys and girls, that we can save our bread clips? Who saves bread clips? Good on you, Nilita. Anybody else? Maravon? Yes? Do you recycle them at home, or do you have a purpose for them? Like, Andrew, you save your bread clips? What do you do with them? Okay, that's one acceptable Northern Territory use for a bread clip. To put it on your thong to stop the bit, slipping through. Yes, very good. Guitarists, of course, use it for the if you run out of plectrums. Yes, and there's 100 different uses for them. But did you know that there's a guy, or there's a woman who has an organisation to collect bread clips, and she sends the bread clips to South Africa, where they recycle them and sell the goods that they make from the recycling, and with that they support a charity for giving wheelchairs to people in South Africa. How cool is that? So you save the bread clips up, and she sends them off to South Africa. Now you're going to say, that's really dumb. Why send bread clips all the way to South Africa? That can't be good for the environment. Well, to fix that, a fella in South Australia, home of all intelligent people and innovation, in the city of Rogue, down on the south coast, best fish and chips in Australia, Rogue, he has got a system where he will now collect your bread clips, and he will recycle them into plastic plates, which are fully reusable and recyclable themselves, and then he makes a donation to the charity in South Africa supporting giving wheelchairs to the people who need wheelchairs. Who would have thought? Obviously, from something as small as bread clips, some good stuff can actually happen. From saving your aluminium, from recycling your batteries, from recycling your soft plastic, which can be recycled, all the soft plastic that you collect, that can all go in the recycling outside the door of Woolies. I'm sure you all do that as well. Yes. Sorry? Or the big bags can go to the op shop, but these are all the little bread bags and things like that inside. The op shop will take your plastic bags happily, yes. Okay, so what's all this nonsense about up here? Well, it was to make the point that from little things, we can make a difference. Little things like bread clips turn out you can make a difference by saving them, collecting them. It's good for the environment, not to chuck them in the bin. And with 1,870 of these little clips. The guy in Rome can make a plastic bowl. So I've got a little way to go, yeah? But when you all start saving your bread clips after today and giving them to me, and I'll be inundated with them, I'm going to need a bigger jar to put them in. So I'll be happy to collect your little things. Imagine that we could do that. The guy's name is Brad Scott. I looked it up because I remember reading the story some time ago. Little things, from little things, big things grow. It's the song we know. We can all do something to save the environment and to make a difference, even from the littlest things around. There's one young woman who sat down outside her school or outside the parliament and on Fridays, of course, and started a school strike for climate change. And it became a movement, and she came close to winning a Nobel Prize. Kids rule, kids lead the way, and our kids around Australia have joined in that movement and are also involved in making that statement that we want a better world to live in, we want a better and more sustainable world that we can enjoy. It reminds me of the word, a little child will lead them. Because sometimes it's the kids who give us good ideas, or the kids that tell us how a little thing can make a difference. I'll be glad to receive your bread tags after today. I hope I've created a monster. We have what's called the Season of Creation. It goes for the Sundays during September and finishes on October the 4th, which is the feast day of St. Francis, patron saint of all things, all creatures, and so on. I decided we weren't going to do a week of Seasons of Creation, but we should have at least one Sunday in this period where we focus on creation and environment. So with that end in mind, I got out our beautiful blue oceany tablecloth, because one of the weeks was about ocean. And I also made sure that I put that particular candle on the table. It's got lots of colours, but you can also see the tide is rising. Maybe you can't see it from back there, but it was a lovely colourful candle all the way down until the wax started dripping and the tide started rising. And I wore a rainbow coloured stole to kind of get in the creation mood. And then I looked at what are some of the readings that are set down for this week, and here we get this gospel reading of parables about little things. Little things as we think about creation. So let's try and weld all this together in some kind of format. Always conscious that Lauren's recording these things and someone else is going to see this sometime, somehow. The pressure has become immense in this COVID world. It is the little things that count. Apparently, in 1713, there was a club in London for men who were under 5 feet tall. It was called the Little Men's Club. And they would meet once a year on the shortest day of the year at the restaurant called the Little Piazza. And they would dine on a meal of shrimp. It's a little men's club. And in the Bible we get images too of little things. The widow's mite, David and Goliath, the little town of Bethlehem. We've got images of little things all around us. I've already mentioned Paul Kelly's song, From Little Things, Big Things Grow. I love it and enjoy sing along every time it comes on. And I've shown you this before, but this is one of my coolest possessions. Can you remember? Anybody remember this? Or did you see it? Did you pay attention last time? Were you sleeping? Did you see what that is? Jesus on a cross. Very good. That's half the story. Eileen? Eileen just had a cataract stomach. Oh, it's not fair. Who can see? Look up close and tell me what else you see about this. Jesus on the cross. And what is it made from? Very good. No. Sneaky, mate. Anybody want to try and guess what this is made from? Mary? It's inside the bowl, but what is the actual cross made from? Look down the bottom. No? Very, very clever piece of equipment, this one. This is Jesus on a cross, carved from a matchstick. And you can see that because there's a little bit of red match down the bottom, okay? Now you believe me? Is that cool or what? That's Jesus on the cross, carved from a matchstick. It's just a little thing, but, oh, closer. Jesus on the cross, carved from a matchstick. How cool is that? One of my coolest little things. Little things, that's what we're thinking about. Little things. And so Jesus tells this story about mustard seed. It's an annual plant whose seeds are amongst the very smallest. Apparently orchid seeds are smaller. I didn't know that until I found out. But mustard seeds are pretty small. It was a common plant in Jesus' day, and it's like a weed that goes through the whole of that part of the world. It grows to a height of about 6 feet. That's about the same size as me. So something about this size would not normally be described as a tree, more of a shrub perhaps. But Jesus is making the point that from this tiny little seed, you get something quite big and massive. It grows completely wild, though it can be improved when it's transplanted and looked after and so on. But once you've got it, you can sort of can't get rid of it. It's a bit like, let's give a Darwin equivalent, coffee bush. Have you got another Darwin example of a weed you can't get rid of? Yes, there's got to be some things. And here we are in a lovely season, also known as lawnmower season, I think, when you've got to have the lawnmower ready and primed because the grass is going to grow while you're at church, and so on. Mustard grew like that, like crazy. It's a weed. And it's significant, isn't it, that Jesus chooses what is essentially a weed to give us a story about how faith is meant to grow. He tells a story about a woman who puts some yeast into the flour, or leaven into the flour. Only a small amount. But when that is mixed in, the bread begins to rise. It's all about small things getting bigger. And these parables are found in the 3 synoptic gospels, and it just reminds us small things become large. Same with the story about the yeast. It takes mixing with all we are, expanding what we have, making it whole. Then the kingdom begins to grow. It illustrates the invisible growth of the kingdom. Then a story about fishing with a net. The kingdom is open to all. God will gather the good and dispose of that which is evil. It requires some sorting out the good from the bad, but our lives are nurtured. Then a story about a treasure that's sought and the joy of discovery. Both the treasure and that story about a pearl have to do with commitment. Go use everything you have and get on with it until you find what you're seeking. And a story about a pearl. There's great joy when the pearl is found. The real truth is the pearl of great value that God sees in you and I. A pearl requires searching, and we receive the most valuable thing. Now, I want to also say that it seems to me that the kingdom of God is more of a verb than a noun. The things that are talked about in these parables in Matthew 13 that we've read, it doesn't say the kingdom is the thing, it says it's something about the action. Jesus isn't comparing the kingdom to 5 things, but to 5 actions. For example, he doesn't say that the kingdom of heaven is like a pearl. He says it's like a merchant in search of a pearl. It's like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in the ground. Like yeast that a woman took and mixed. Like treasure that someone found and hid. Like a net that was thrown. It may sound obvious, but the things themselves are pretty useless unless they are used. So the kingdom of God is not some lifeless thing that we can look at and appreciate. It's life and action and response to God's call. So these are the random thoughts that I've had in what has been a rather busy week. Little things. I've been thinking a lot about little things. And thinking about all these things and how they apply to questions about creation and thinking about creation. I'm not going to bombard you with all those echo facts that you probably should be aware of anyway. What's clear is that biodiversity in our world is shrinking. There is a loss of habitats and of species. These are not my ideas, these are David Attenborough's ideas, and he's 94, so he's been around long enough to know. One of the things that came up on my clip video feed this week was one that I've seen before, but it's a story. It's a story about wolves being reintroduced into Yellowstone Park. Has anybody seen this little clip? Yes? No, you probably sent it to me. I don't know yet. But the story goes, someone reintroduced a couple of wolves, only 2, into Yellowstone Park, and it was kind of interesting. But as the story unfolds, you see that the wolves being introduced changes the whole structure, because animals can then interact differently because there's now a different predator in the mix, and after a while everything begins to flourish. You have to see the video to get it. It's too hard for me to explain. But one thing after another, as the biodiversity is reintroduced, the whole system begins to flourish. Fascinating video. Yes. I'm not going to tell you about the sea level that's rising, the oceans that are being polluted, where the fish, how's it go, that you don't just sell the fish wrapped in plastic anymore because it's got enough plastic in it already, something like that. I'm not going to tell you about the global warming. We can see the evidence of that if we have eyes to see with bushfires in our last summer here in Australia. We can read that we are not going to meet the Paris Accord of trying to keep the global warming under 2 degrees by the time of the next COP meeting. I'm not going to tell you all that stuff because you can read that and study it just as I can anywhere else. What I do want to know is, what do you think about the future when you think about these things? Do you think about these things? What are your fears? What are your hopes as you think about the future of God's creation? This is a serious call out your answers moment here. What do you think about? Hopes and fears. thinking about that future. Nilita? Yes, our children. What kind of a world are we leaving for them? Yes?
Australia will listen to Indigenous wisdom on keeping our environment safe
Okay.
for fires.
Yes. So Margie says that we would begin to listen to our Indigenous wisdom on looking after the environment. Hopes, fears? Yes. I don't think we're alone yet, that it's going to be too hot for us to live here in Darwin. Who thinks we're getting there already? Every time the build-up starts or gets a bit steamy after the first rain, we start to feel like that, don't we? Yes, that global warming is happening because it's getting too hot to live in Darwin. What else?
Fears for those in the Pacific.
Fears for those in the Pacific? Yes. Tuvalu is the least visited country by tourists in the world. It's made up of these low-lying atolls. You can stand here and chuck a cricket ball to the other side of the main island, and it's just sort of one long strip, which is a lagoon side and an ocean side. Not much soil. Don't know how they grow things. The landing strip is. The islands are kind of an L shape, and the landing strip's down there because that's the longest bit of the island to land on. And when the plane comes to land, they have to close the gate, put all the kids off the airport, or off the airstrip, and let the plane land. Very great place. But they're living in fear. Tuvalu means 8 islands. There are 8 islands there, and Kiribati are some of the most threatened coral atolls around. That we'll prayerfully be guided to make right decisions about how we should respond.
Not only Pacific Islands, but Milingimbi could go under, and the Marakai Plains, and a whole lot of other islands across Arnhem Land.
Okay? So we don't have to even look as far as the Pacific, because there are islands in Arnhem Land, Milingimbi, and Marakai Plains. I'm actually glad that I live on the hill in Stuart Park, because I sometimes walk and look at the low-lying parts and think, I don't want that water coming up any higher. Could be a worry. What else do you think about? Does this stuff worry you, frighten you, or do you think, no, I don't have to worry about this stuff? What's your own feeling on that? Gail? Yep. Okay, Gail's expressing some trust and hope in the words of that old chorus, because he lives I can face tomorrow, because he lives all fear is gone. And yes, we have an assurance that God is with us, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the water isn't rising. Maribel. Did you say we have to look to our politicians, or we have to talk to our politicians? Yes. Okay. Yes, we've got to make some good decisions, and they will be political decisions. And of course, all of these things become political decisions, and someone's going to say to me afterwards, I wish you wouldn't talk about that greedy stuff in church because it doesn't fit well with my political view and where I sit. And I'm going to say to you, did you not listen to the Bible readings that we read this morning? Did you not read Genesis chapter 1? This is God's good creation that we're caring for. This is a political matter. This is a Christian matter. at the heart of who we are as God's people. And we will talk about it, and we'll try not to make it political. I won't say you should vote this way or you should vote that way, and I won't criticise politicians from either side of or either end of the spectrum about their political views or how they see the way going. But I will remind you that as Christian people, we have a responsibility and a duty to care for God's earth and not to turn away and look the other way. So what can we do? What can we do now? What can we do? How do we care for God's good creation? Plant more trees. Yes? Very good idea. Plant more trees. I know you're all going to start recycling your bread clips, but what else are you going to do? Eat less meat. Yes, that's hard for some of us, isn't it? Eat less meat. Okay. Eat less meat. What else? Pray for the large population. Yes. Okay. What else can we do? When you think about all the stories that we hear, and some of them are very worrying, what do you say to yourself? This is what I can do right now. Stop worrying about keeping old people alive. There are some politicians who've taken that course, I think. Okay. The little things. Yes. Right.
Be discerning when you read the media.
Very, very true. Be discerning when you read the media. Yes. Mary?
Plant some more Borroloola beans.
Huh?
Tony had beans in church some days ago that came out of a packet. I had a friend who gave me this Borroloola beans. They grow this long, they grow that quick, and they take over.
Borroloola beans. All
They're
right.
local to where we live.
Okay. Borroloola beans to save the planet. Okay, I like it. Would it also be true to say that sometimes you feel like I do? What can one person do? I can't even tell you how long I've been saving bread clips or how many are in there, but it's I refuse to throw them out in the bin. I just can't do it anymore. I put them in my little bread clip jar. And it's just growing. And sometimes I think, oh, why do I do that? Yes? Do you ever have those kind of days? Am I really making a difference? Yes? Do you have those days? When you unpack your new computer and you're very glad to have got a new computer, and it's very exciting, and then you see that the pile of packaging is actually bigger than the computer itself. Do you get a little despondent like I do? What can one person do? Do you ever feel insignificant? I guess is the question. Yes, sometimes. Yes? Powerless. What can one person do? Will saving the bread clips save the planet? I turn back to that story of the mustard seed. And I think Jesus says to us, you have to have faith like a mustard seed. You have to have hope like a mustard seed. You have to have love like a mustard seed. Tiny, small, but you can do something. We are not powerless. We can do something and not lose heart. So my next and final question is, where can you be yeast? Where can you be yeast this week? Where can you be the little thing that goes in the lump and makes it rise and something better appear and be productive? Where can you be yeast in this community and It might be insignificant. It might be tiny, small, but it tells a story that is powerful and changes lives and changes the world. Where can you be yeast this week? If you go away with nothing else from this hodgepodge of a reflection and rambling, meandering sermon slot thing this morning, go away with this. Where can I be yeast this week? Where can I plant my mustard seed faith this week? And the one thing that I do know is that wherever we go, wherever we finish up, Jesus is already there with us. Jesus walks with us. Jesus journeys with us. Jesus is the one who makes it possible for us to carry on. Even when we're feeling low, broken-hearted, burdened, when we're sorrowful, it's Jesus who walks with us. And that's what we should sing about. We can stand to sing.